What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Nia, the video gamer, and I'm going to come on really quickly and say happy belated birthday to me. My birthday was yesterday, May 3rd, and I just want to say shout outs to the homie, Crunk Girl 711, for the birthday shout out. She shouted me out in her last video. Go check her out. She's awesome. I know I talk about her a lot on this channel, but it's only because there are so few female gamers on YouTube that actually know what the heck they're talking about in regards to gaming. And there's also a very few amount of us that do it without trying to be out sexy flexy and flaunting our goods in camera. And trust me, if Crunk Girl wanted to, she could flaunt her goods in front of the camera and be good. Like, just saying. Like, sorry, Crunk Girl, I don't mean to put you out there, but homie, you got a situation going on in that shirt that you ain't letting everybody see. But I'm not gonna put my homegirl out there like that. But shout out to Crunk Girl 711. Go check her out. Also, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you guys who have been supporting me this past year and some change. To all of you guys who watch my videos, who discuss with me. I have finally reached 1,000+ subscribers, but I would not be anywhere without you guys. Thank you guys so much for just giving me the opportunity to speak my mind about games. You know, it's really hard for women. Like, I don't want to turn this into a, oh, woe is me, I'm a female, but it's really hard for women, especially on this side of the community. It's really hard for women to come out and speak about games and for people to listen to them and for people to respect them. So I am very humbled by you guys' support, and I hope that I can continue bringing you guys the content that you guys look forward to whenever you come to watch my videos, whenever I can throw up a video, because I know for sure I am not consistent. And I may be doing another giveaway very, very soon, so you guys look forward to that. Okay, now into the topics of today. I got a lot of stuff to cover because I've been gone for a little minute and I've been thinking about a lot of stuff, considering that Nintendo has been under fire. I mean, Nintendo is always under fire, but they have been really under fire in recent time. So I just want to come on really quickly and just talk about some things that I have been thinking. So, bad news for Nintendo so far. Nintendo's not having a huge E3 press conference. Nintendo has pretty much dropped the ball in regards to bringing convincing content to their system. The recent virtual console was a big disappointment, even for me. Very big disappointment, considering that there were many more games that were supposed to be coming that did not come, and just some other things that Nintendo are just doing that are just basically baffling minds everywhere. Like, baffling minds everywhere, from Nintendo haters to those in between to those who absolutely love Nintendo. They've been making some very baffling decisions. But one thing that I can say that I have been saying is that a lot of people have been saying, well, all of this bad news basically confirms that Nintendo is for kids, it's irrelevant, they're old news, Nintendo was afraid of Microsoft and Sony, that's why they're not going to be at E3. And I just want to go ahead and just say this, even though this is essentially beating a dead horse, but just because you were playing Mario and Zelda and Kirby as a kid does not mean that those games are for children. It just so happens that when video games first became popular, a lot of us were kids, but we're growing up now, right? But just because games were very popular when we were children does not mean that they are still for children, because even though we like to think that we're cool with our M-rated games and our shooters, people who don't play games still look at us like we're crazy. So no matter what you decide to play, embrace it and respect other people for what they play, because essentially we're all doing the same damn thing. We're all a bunch of grown ass people playing video games. I don't understand why we have to try to separate people with kids games and grown up games. They are still games. I mean, come on. And then, like, a lot of people are saying, well, Nintendo is irrelevant because their games are old. Do you know how hard it is to maintain a franchise in the gaming world? Especially now that gaming is becoming a lot more big and people are putting a lot more money into games. It's really, really hard to maintain a gaming franchise. You know what I'm saying? Like people like Konami, who are still making Castlevania and Metal Gear, and then like people like Capcom, who are still making games like Street Fighter. Those games have been around since the NES, back in the arcades, and they are still profitable. Like you have to give props to these game developers that still make their franchises relevant. Nintendo being the biggest one, because most of their games are still relevant. Even if you don't care about Nintendo, you still have to respect the fact that they are still around and that they are still making the games that we all grew up on and we love, and that they are constantly reinventing those IPs. And a lot of people think that just because a lot of Nintendo games have the same faces on them, that they're not reinventing those games. That is not the truth at all. You would never find, maybe Mario, if you're thinking about the new Super Mario Brothers U part of Mario, but when you look at the 3D Marios, there is not one Mario that is the same from the 3D Mario to the next 3D Mario. And if you look at Zelda, Nintendo is always reinventing Zelda with the way that the game looks, the way that the game plays, and as a video game company, it's expected that Nintendo is always looking for different ways to play. Even though it has the same face, does not mean that they're not giving you a new experience each time you play. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I mean, that should be like self-explanatory, but that's neither here nor there. As far as my E3 thoughts and people saying that Nintendo is afraid of Sony and Microsoft, first of all, I think it's laughable because anybody who has been playing video games since the Super Nintendo at least knows that Nintendo has always been in their own league. They've always kind of stayed in their own lane, and they haven't really actively competed against one company or another. They've always been Nintendo. They do what Nintendo does. They do what Nintendo wants to do. And if you guys think that's going to change anytime soon just because the PS4 and the next Xbox is coming, then you're kidding yourselves, really. You're kidding yourselves. Nintendo has been very silent and inactive, so to speak, for the last 2 years. Do you really think that they're in their studios, twiddling their thumbs and sitting on their hands? No, they're doing stuff. If they're not, I will be very surprised. I will be very surprised. And I'm expecting for Nintendo to surprise us with some things and to bring us some things that most of us will be interested in seeing. If they do not, I will eat my words. But one thing that I have learned from being a Nintendo fan is to never count Nintendo out. But one thing I can say about this whole E3 thing is that it's brought them a lot of bad press. And a lot of Nintendo news has been coming out that has been very bad. And I think that it's bad because when you leave a bad taste in people's mouths, they're not going to trust your product. So that is an uphill battle for Nintendo. But there's no such thing as bad press. Even though Nintendo has been under fire and they've had a lot of bad publicity, a lot of people are going to be watching them because of it. The people who love Nintendo are going to be watching because they want Nintendo to prove the naysayers wrong. The people who don't particularly care for Nintendo are going to be watching because they want to see Nintendo fall flat on its face. So, with that being said, Nintendo better bring the heat. They better drop some bombs because everybody's going to be watching. Now, if this was another situation where nobody was bringing new hardware, because Microsoft's going to release information about their new hardware, so is Sony. The fact that Nintendo is choosing to I don't want to say back out, but choosing not to play a part in the E3 hype, which we all know that E3 is all about hype, it kind of brings them more attention than Sony and Microsoft's new hardware, which is crazy because even though Microsoft and Sony are going to be announcing new hardware, everybody's talking about Nintendo and how they're not going to be there. Have you noticed that? And people keep talking about how nuts it is, but at the same time, it's kind of working in the favor of Nintendo because people are still talking about Nintendo, which means that they are relevant in some respect or another, right? That's all I'm gonna say. But as far as the whole E3 thing, we all know that E3 is all about hype. When Sony decided to do their conference in February, there was so much hype around it. There are people to this day who don't know a thing, a single thing about the PS4, except for the fact that it's going to have 8 gigs of RAM. But they are just so hyped because of that conference, because the conference brought so much hype. They're thinking that the product is going to be better than what it might actually be. Not saying that the PS4 isn't going to be great. I think it's going to be great. I can't wait to get my hands on one. But the point I'm trying to make is the hype of something could bring customers alone just from the hype. And so, as far as the whole thing with Nintendo, I think that's the thing that kind of sucks about them not having a big conference, because if E3 is all about hype and there is no hype behind your conference and what you're doing because you're deciding to do a closed conference, then that's a little unsettling. But the fact that there is so much bad press revolving around Nintendo's E3, that could potentially also bring hype. So I'm just gonna watch and see. I'm gonna see what's gonna happen. I don't want to say what I think is exactly is gonna happen, because Nintendo has been in tough situations before where they have completely flipped it, as we've seen with the 3DS. I don't always put my eggs in one basket when talking about Nintendo, because they are just the most random company ever, and it's probably part of why I love them so much, because like I'm the same way. But I'ma roll with it until further notice, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. Now, something I've been wanting to talk about for the longest time is hardcore gamers versus Nintendo core gamers. A lot of people have been saying Nintendo is losing the hardcore gamer. Now, when I think about hardcore gamer, I think about the person who's playing Dude Bro Shooter 598, you know what I'm saying? Or people who only play westernized games that have anything to do with being in a western world, or basically anything that you would see in a Michael Bay movie. Maybe I am completely misinformed, but the term hardcore gamer has changed significantly over the course of the seventh generation. I've always been under the assumption that a hardcore gamer is anybody who makes gaming a part of their life. It is a hobby for them that they always go back to, and they are a part of the lure and the culture of games. When people say things like Nintendo is losing the hardcore gamer, I'm always confused, because this is why. Nintendo has a lot of hardcore fans that I would consider to be hardcore gamers, but the general public doesn't see them as hardcore gamers because they're not playing Call of Duty or Battlefield, they're playing Mario and Zelda. Does that make sense? So, when people say Nintendo needs to bring the games for the hardcore gamer, I say to myself, they've always brought games for the hardcore gamer, but maybe it's because I'm a Nintendo fan. I consider myself a Nintendo gamer, but I think that at the end of the day, there's just so many branches of what it means to be a hardcore gamer. There's a hardcore gamer that likes a particular kind of game, like the stereotypical ones, like the Dude Bro guys, and then there's the Nintendo core gamer. I feel like if you're a Nintendo core gamer, like people like me or people like Shokyo or like Nintendo or all of my other homies that like Nintendo, you are a hardcore gamer, and Nintendo is still bringing those games that we like. I think that when people say that Nintendo is losing a hardcore gamer, what they mean is that Nintendo is not being Western enough, because in the 7th generation, Western games became a lot more popular. Western games pretty much exploded the market. And because Nintendo is still very Japan focused, they haven't been paying a lot of attention to Western games and Western gamers that love Western games. And that is also another thing that I think plagues Nintendo, because they're too focused on getting Japan the resources that they provide. And as a Western Nintendo fan, it bothers me, but yet it doesn't bother me. I've always tended to like Japanese games a little bit more than Western games, but when it comes to third party, I think that with the Wii U, Nintendo is focusing way too much on Japan. This is what I mean by that. In Nintendo's eyes, Western games are probably not that relevant to them, which they need to be, but they're trying very hard with Japanese third party. Like you could see that with how close they've gotten with Platinum by getting Bayonetta 2 and the Wonderful 101. They're doing it with Atlas with their recent advertising for Shin Megami Tensei and the crossover of Shin Megami Tensei X Fire Emblem, and with Capcom getting Monster Hunter exclusivity. I think that when Nintendo thinks about third party, they think about Japanese third party. Because I've been seeing a lot of articles recently about how Nintendo is talking to these Japanese developers. And it's good if you like Japanese games, it's good for the Japanese gaming market. But if Nintendo's focus is to appeal to everybody, which is what they tried to do with the Wii, and I think what they're also trying to do with the Wii U is appeal to everybody, which is what they've always tried to do. Let me correct myself. Then they've got to get on board with the West too. I mean, they're doing really good with Ubisoft. Ubisoft has really, shown out for Nintendo, and I appreciate that. But they've got to find a way to get more Western people on their side, because people are not going to take Nintendo seriously until they really show that they're for everybody. If you're showing that you only care about the Japanese market, you only care about Japanese games, but yet you say that you're for everybody, then that kind of makes you look like a hypocrite, and you're only leaving more of a bad taste in people's mouths. There's a lot of things that I think that Nintendo should be doing, which they might be doing, but so the people who are skeptical about Nintendo, what they want to see is Nintendo really about the games? Yes, Nintendo games are great, but what about other games? These days people are dropping lots and lots of money on consoles, and they want to get every little bit of experience that they can from these consoles. So if Nintendo can only bring Nintendo games while slacking on other games, that's not going to be very convincing for people who want a one console future. But this is a long video. I still haven't really touched on a lot of stuff that I wanted to say, because I kind of wanted to cram it all into one video, because I really don't want to make multiple videos, but I might have to split this one up into two. But those are just some things I've been thinking about, and I will talk to you guys at a later date. Peace.